Hey guys, today I want to talk about noise and how we can fix noise in Photoshop. I know there's a lot of tips and guides out there, but none of them really focusing on luminance noise versus color noise, or if you will, chromatic noise versus monochromatic noise. So let's take a look at the difference between these noise and then how we can handle noise in Photoshop. Alright, so I'm here in Photoshop and let me just zoom out. We have this picture of Laura. Her portfolio is in the description below. And as you can see, it's quite noisy already. Now that's actually some artificial noise I made just so we can see the difference. So now we'll have color noise on the left side and luminance noise on the right side. And sometimes it might be really easy to see, and sometimes it might just be harder. But for this case, I think it's a little hard to see. So let's just zoom in so we can see the difference between the noise type. And let's just hide the Photoshop pixel grid over here. So on the left side, we can see there's noise on the colors, and on the right side there is noise on the exposure values. So Photoshop can handle both types of noise. And let's just open up filter, noise, and then reduce noise to take a look at that. Now the different types of noise will be handled here in reduce noise, while this tube focuses on luminance noise, and the sliders down below here focus on color noise. So we could fix both type of noise right away, like pumping up the values and press OK, but just let's duplicate the noisy image, and let's take one at a time to focus on each noise type. So I'm just going to turn down the treatment of the luminous noise and just see how we're doing on the, if you just zoom in here, see how we're doing on the color noise. So if you dial that down, we can see it's fairly easy to handle the color noise. Now it's already gone by 80%, and we can press OK. And now we can see we have luminance noise on both sides of the image instead of just the color noise here. So now we only have to deal with the luminance noise. So going back in here and turn down the slider here, because we don't have to focus on that anymore. Now it's only just a matter of the strength parameter up here. Now the one thing with luminance noise and color noise as well, it's going to cost quality. It's going to essentially blur out the image and then try to fix it again. So it is going to cost detail, and that's why it's a compromise between detail and amount of noise reduction we want. And that's particularly bad for the face. As we can see, if we dial that up, it's just going to look weird her eyes. So we have to find in a balance between what we want and how much we can sacrifice. So I think for this image, 8 might be good. And you could press OK and then try to fix the eyes with, if you just zoom out, create a layer mask, and then you try to cancel out the noise reduction on her eyes. But of course the eyes will get a little bit noisy as well, but it's also going to get sharpened. I think it's really important to sharpen her eyes. So this is before and after. And if we didn't remove some of the noise on her eyes, or the noise reduction on her eyes, you will see that her eyes just looks a bit weird. Maybe not when we zoomed out a little, but definitely when we zoomed all the way in, it looks weird. So another way we could have done, instead of trying to cancel out some of the noise reduction, is go back in, noise, reduce noise, and then try to play around with the preserve details parameter. Now this, I think this works better for the eyes, as you can see, but it's also going to introduce some noise as well. So while we can try to fix the noise, we will still have some noise created from the preserve detail, and this picture is just really noisy, so we can't get rid of everything unless we want to sacrifice a lot of details. So maybe we should just preserve details like 15%, and the strength parameter we can set to 9, and I think that will be good for this case. So we can see after and before, after and before. So we did handle some of it. I know flowing about talk about a method. We just duplicate that. We go to blur, surface blur, and then we can see, play around with the settings. So let's see, we want the some kind of sharpness to be there, but we also want the noise gone. So he talks about we can go create a negative layer mask and then paint that in where the details aren't as important. So I'm just going to credit Flown right away because he talked about that. If you find places on your image where details aren't as important as this part of the image here, we can blur that out with the surface blur, so it's still going to take into account the edges. And that's, for instance, it doesn't matter if we really paint over this shirt here, the surface blur got us covered. So by doing that, we can blur out areas that's already blurry, or areas that doesn't matter if they get blurry, and therefore we can blur out the noise as well. But this technique is of course only for places that can take the blur, so places that need sharpening. For instance, her eyes would be a really dumb place to do it, because you're just going to cancel out all the details. Maybe a background, if you have a blurry background, you can use that, but I think in this image we got that fairly covered. So maybe the next step for this image would be to take a look on that chromatic aberration, but that's for my next video, so I hope you'll follow along. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. Enjoy!